everybody. Welcome back. So like, I had a moment a few minutes ago where Rick Linklater got here, and we were talking, and I was like, well, it's the end of this, and Rick pointed out something really interesting and true, which was that, like, no, it's not. It just kind of keeps rolling on. It's just, so we're just kind of hitting, after tonight, we're kind of hitting pause on this, but we'll be back as soon as we can kind of, get it together and work it out to do another installment of this series. Hopefully, it won't be quite as long as it was between the last one and this one. Hopefully we can get together and do this again. But it's been amazing, a really incredible series. These are always, for me as a person who programs year-round, to work with a guest programmer, if you will, like AFS Artistic Director Richard Linklater. The choices that he makes are so good and so smart, and the films that people are exposed to as a result of this are, I think, they become sort of part of the film ecosystem. So all the filmmakers, all the writers, everybody who's here is being sort of subtly influenced by these choices. And I hope that all of you are kind of taking some chances to put some like wry, local hero type humorous touches into your films. And after you see this, maybe some neon possibly. So, but thanks everybody for being a part of this. I'm going to bring Richard Linklater to the stage in just a minute, but I did want to just kind of make a quick pitch while we have a captive audience here of all of you. Is this thing that you've been seeing trailering forever, Doc Days. We've been trailering for the past 3 weeks or so. This is a really amazing series that starts this weekend. The opening night, the Miles Davis doc, is sold out, but there are still some tickets for everything else in the program. Last year we did this. It was our first year of Doc Days last year, and of the, 5 to 7 films that we showed last year, 3 of them ended up getting Academy Award nominations, and these were films that nobody had heard of when we showed them. So, Oscar schmoskers, but still, pretty good movies. Some pretty good movies this year, if I may say so myself. So I think that you guys could do a lot worse with your weekend than come sit in an air-conditioned auditorium and watch some amazing documentaries. But for now, you're going to want to watch the movie that you came here for, Choose Me, and it's going to be introduced by the world's greatest movie introducer, let's say, the great AFS founder and artistic director, Richard Linklater. Come on.
Thanks, Lars. I was kind of thinking, this week, when you introduced me the first time, you said, sometimes he just goes, let's just see the movie and we'll talk later. Which that would be a good one after your intro. I want to also second what Lars is saying. Yeah, the Doc Days, it's amazing. You get this nowhere else. If you see every single one of those films, you will be that much better. Every one of those is a really worthwhile film, like everything we show here, and I'm sure you know as members. Everybody here a member? Who's not a member? Raise your hand. How about we'll do that? Pick you off. Encourage those around you who aren't members. You really need to be. So like Lars said, it's the last one of this little series, but we've already renamed this series the Never Ending Film Series. It'll be back. For every movie, it spawns a few more, like, if I'm going to see that, I got to see that again, and that again, and that again. I think we'll keep doing it until there's no one left who ever saw the first one, who was ever at and then we'll know it's time to come up with something else. But so Choose Me, it was a tough choice to actually choose this movie because I thought we need to represent Alan Rudolph. I think he had a great 80s, and 90s and beyond. He's just a wonderful filmmaker who's had a great career, and unlike say the last 2 films we showed, Chan is Missing and Secaucus 7, he occupies this space of not quite no-budget movies, like those are super low budget. He was kind of industry adjacent, I would say. He's making these films for just under $1 million, so it's definitely an independent film, but it's got 3 name actors, and, but he found a niche in the 80s and 90s, I think, where he was able to make his own very personal, very stylistic, personal visions, and they got seen. I think I first saw this at the Varsity Theater, and the old Varsity in '84. It played for a long time. Yeah, the Varsity. It played for a long time. Was much discussed. Was very much an indie success of that time, and I think this film, you know, it's hard. Like, I want to see it again because unlike most other films, I really do remember those really well. I remember like a tone, a look, a feel. There's something about this film that's mysterious and kind of dreamlike, but it's hard to remember the specifics in a certain way. And that, I don't mean that's nothing against the film. I think it's for the film. It's just kind of this mood, atmosphere thing. But it's very, very much a character piece. I think this film is about identity in a strange way. You know, it's identity, kind of mistaken identity or hidden identity. It's these three main characters. Genevieve Bujold plays a radio, like a sex therapist, a radio host, Anne, and she's one of those, like, she can offer advice and help others, but can't really help herself in this category. One of her regular callers, Leslie Ann Warren, plays Eve, and so somehow they end up being roommates, and they don't know that they're the same ones calling each other. Eve owns a bar that a lot of the movie takes place around this bar, and she's an ex-hooker, you know, retired hooker. So, and into this mix comes either a released or a broken out mental patient, I forget, Keith Carradine, the great Keith Carradine, Mickey. And he's a mysterious character, crazy stories, connections to Russia, space program, CIA. You don't really know, is he just flat a pathological liar? Or is he an honest madman? I don't know, it's all kind of ambiguous. An honest madman. He might be that. But, and that sounds like the makings of a great romantic comedy, maybe a sex comedy or something. But it kind of isn't, you know, in a way. The film's funny, quirky, it's definitely got laughs. But it's not, I think the characters are too, like, isolated and disconnected and things like that to really, it doesn't bring that kind of fulfillment or wackiness, you know. And with its neon look and atmosphere, you think, oh, is it one of those LA sunlight noirs, you know, is it a film noir? Well, it's not quite that either, you know. Rudolph, he kind of sets you up in a way, and he doesn't always deliver those things, but again, that's not a bad thing. He's delivering something that I think is always wonderful, and it's just very challenging, smart, complex characters. You know, he respects the audience enough to do that, and he's has his own kind of easygoing charm. It seems very realistic in its own way. You know, it's got this beautiful mood to it. It's kind of a melancholy air, a little bit of this Teddy Pendergrass song. So it's kind of a soulful. What's the song from it? Like, I'm choosing you, or you're the one I choose, I think is the song that plays in it. So, I mean, it was kind of a toss-up. I couldn't, you know, which Rudolph film from the 80s to pick. I was thinking maybe the moderns. I like that film a lot too. But I thought this one was probably more relevant to the 80s. You know, it like I said, it's set in LA, but it's also, I think it says more about this generation. It's not that different than our characters from last week's film, Secaucus 7. You know, they're kind of that age, they're mature adults. It's kind of the end of something. It's probably the end, this post-60s, post-sexual revolution kind of dead end that these people find themselves at in this kind of landscape of LA. So, you know, I look forward to talking to Lars and hearing what you guys have to say. I'm interested to see how this film holds up. I suspect the characters will be, you know, it's still gonna look very 80s, I'm sure, the styles and stuff, but there's something probably timeless about it too, I'm pretty sure. I haven't seen it in a long time, but something tells me it's gonna still be, you know, very, very fascinating between these characters and this bar that they hang out and all that stuff. So anyway, well, thanks for being here, and enjoy the show, and we'll just be around after. So, okay, thanks a lot.
All right. All right. I need a cigarette, by the way.
Yeah, cigarette.
Definite drink. You know, I was thinking, watching this, it's like this is a cousin to our other
LA movie we showed in this theater, Barfly. Isn't that funny? They're like down the street from each other. Very different clientele.
Yeah,
But
totally in different worlds.
yeah.
But that neon drenched
Yeah,
world.
that damn LA neon thing. They've cornered the market on that. God, it's so funny. It's so funny what you don't remember about a movie.
Yeah.
You know.
Well,
So
how is it
it's
different
really-
for you? Because when I saw it as a teenager, and I thought, wow, I can't wait to be a grown-up because it looks really exciting.
I remember, I guess I was in my early 20s, I was just kind of like, I don't know. I think it was like scary or something. You know, it was kind of like, oh God, these old people with their problems. I didn't like it. I mean, I like
These
the movie.
32-year-olds with their problems.
They're so
Yeah.
old. God. And you know, I realized when I watched this, I didn't know who Ed Ruscha even was.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, you guys know the station manager, one of the great artists, very LA artist. I think he's friends with Alan Rudolph, because Alan Rudolph's a painter also. So that's so funny, him acting. He's not an actor, but just his presence in the movie is kind of. And Rae Dawn Chong, man, she's awesome.
It's great, yeah.
You know, and watching this Patrick Bacow, the guy who plays Zach.
Yeah.
He's kind of the bad guy, but I like him as an actor. He's really wonderful, Belgian actor. He's in some early Romer films, and another 80s film. When we continue this series, we'll have to get State of Things, the
Yeah,
Vendors
yeah,
film,
sure,
where we
sure.
start showing 2 films by. We showed, I know Wings of Desire last time, but that would be a good one to see again. He's a film director in the middle of nowhere whose film is suddenly out of money. It's kind of, I don't know, it's a good end of the world movie.
He's great. The other person who's
Yeah.
super great in this is just Keith Carradine. Is just always so good.
Always so good. God, I've seen him in plays in New York, and just an excellent actor. So charismatic. You can't take your eyes off him. He's so intriguing. He's got so much. From the youngest of ages, you see him in his very early movies. You know, the first time you see him in, like McCabe and Mrs. Miller.
Yeah,
when
yeah, sure.
he's probably 20 or something when he's in McCabe and Mrs. Miller. And you're like, who's that guy? And then this guy, he seems kind of related to some version of the guy in Nashville, maybe?
Yeah.
The cat who has multiple women going in such a, but apparently that's not him. He said he kind of got typecast from Nashville. They were like, you know,
I'm
people
easy.
think he's a cat, but he does it so well.
You know who that character's almost like? You ever see a movie called Pretty Poison?
Oh, sure.
With like Tony
Kirk
Perkins,
Hudson,
and
yeah.
he's like lying throughout the whole thing to try to
Yeah.
impress Tuesday Weld. It's almost like that guy went inside and came out, and here he is now.
Yeah, boom. That guy, I've forgotten so much that ending, I guess, when they're on a bus, you know, is it like, I was like, oh yeah, they're doing an update on The Graduate, but it's like, it's that same generation now, boom, 15, 20 years older, and it's like, oh no, because they're so naive in The Graduate. It's like, then they give that one little look. Here they give like 4 looks, like they know so much. They've been through so much. That generation, they've been through. It's a clever, funny, very telling. I don't know. It's just beautiful. I just forgot. There's so much to admire about this movie. It's just so well done. So beautiful. I just loved it.
It's so unusual what Rudolph is trying to do in the movie too. It's not. We've talked several times. We kind of keep
Yeah.
going back to like, I'm sure they got notes about this, but I think notes that you got from creative producers were a lot better, first of all, and executives, and then also this feels kind of note-proof.
Yeah, I don't think he probably had a lot of notes. I think he
Yeah.
says, you know, I've got Carradine, Bujold, you know, Leslie Ann Warren. I've got this great supporting cast. John Larroquette, is he on a big TV show at this time?
This is probably pre-Night Court. I don't know.
Pre-Night Court, yeah, I'm not
maybe
sure.
during, yeah.
But you know, so he pulls it together, keeps his budget low. Probably just got away with it. You know, I think films were just sneaking through under the radar, and I think this is, and you know, he was established at that time, and I don't know. I think he pulled it off.
Yeah, I wonder what people in the audience think, or if anybody has any
Yeah.
questions or anything. Right over here, yeah.
Yeah, you were talking in the beginning how you were like, it's kind of a noir, but not really.
I said it looks like a noir. If you were to like silently watch it, maybe.
Yeah, I think like
But
it's like
it's-
trying to pace itself like a everybody's running in and out of the scene, trying to find somebody else and playing with whoever they find.
It is farcical, but it's played so straight that you have to take it as a reality. But the coincidences, you know, and all that's, it's like they're in their own little hermetic world that's interlocking, but it seems completely believable. I think it's really hard to pull something like that off and be, you know, the tone and accept it on the film's own terms, you know. I don't know.
I don't know if it has a noir tone to me, because that's sort of doom laden, where, you know,
Yeah,
there's
that's
a
like
sort of sense of
crime
destiny.
and, yeah, I mean, they're shady. It's in a bad neighborhood, and Zach's a pretty shady guy, but he's got money. I mean, you know, there's guns.
Yeah,
They all
yeah.
have a gun. They're not loaded, apparently. Well, his was when he shot at him when he ran around the corner. But a lot of fights and guys, you know, fighting. Go get a drink while they fight.
They have the noir movie posters.
Yeah.
And not all noir. There's a lot of The Man I Love. You know, they were appropriate.
Too Late for Tears.
Yeah.
There's some
good.
storytelling in the posters. You'll notice that, like, the first one on the left is, you know, The Man I Love, then The Man I Marry, and then the one with, you know, Too Late for Tears with Elizabeth Scott getting
Yeah.
slapped by Dan Duryea.
Yeah, you should see backwards.
Right.
When I first saw that, I thought it was just a little too clever. Now I appreciate it so much. At first, I thought it was like, oh, it's a little obvious, you know. Don't knock, or what's the?
Don't bother to knock.
Yeah, don't bother to knock.
All
Yeah,
about
first
Eve.
of- Yeah, and then
Exactly.
there it is. All about Eve.
You-
But I love that now. I don't think it's forced or trying too hard. Seems to say a lot.
I think we've been through a decades where subtlety is just like out the window in a lot of movie storytelling, that like you
Well,
kind
maybe
of
seemed
going
like
for
a lot
bold
then,
statement. Yeah.
35 years ago,
Right.
so subtle now.
Right, exactly.
Oh no, that's, yeah, going the wrong way there. Maybe. So I gotta say, I love that shot so much. It's a scene I'd really completely forgotten, where they're sitting at the table, he's eating, and she's, one shot, it's one take, very subtly choreographed. The slow push in, then the pans back and forth kind of at the right time, then the pull back. I mean, that's just an incredible actor's piece there, and just camera, everything about that's just, it just shows you what good actors they are. And I don't know, very, very impressive.
You have to get the sense of Rudolph is starting from the acting and working out from the performances.
Characters outward, yeah, definitely. And just giving them all kinds of space and time, you feel like, to fully realize those characters.
Some people say that, you know, casting is, once you've got the casting right, then it's just, you've got the movie, and it almost sort of feels like that with this movie.
It is, they are all perfect, you know. Genevieve is so good at that part, you know. That's just, no one could do that better. Well, you could say that for all of them. So.
Who else has a contribution or question? Right over here, yeah.
Yeah, so I remember growing up in the late 60s, early 70s, seeing Leslie Ann Warren in this, I think it was a made-for-TV musical of Cinderella, and she actually sings in it, and the guy that plays Prince Charming, I think later on was on one of the soap operas or something, but so it was something that come on every year, just like Wizard of Oz or the Ten Commandments or something. I always watched it, and then it's interesting later on when I saw it in the movie theaters, and it was either at the Bar Seat or maybe at the Village or someplace like that, seeing, you know, her as an adult, or, you know, more an older adult and different kind of character, and it's like, oh yeah, I remember you, and, you know, she was a favorite part of my childhood, not a much different character. So, interesting.
So were you sad to see her, an ex-hooker, on the bar, or did Cinderella, that seem like her rightful, where you thought she would end up?
Yeah,
It is a little
late
disappointing.
teens, so it was, I thought she was hot, you know.
Yeah, she's definitely still got that, but
It does sort of go to show that, like, you know, like when you see somebody in a movie, it's like they might be cast in like a light role or something, but practically everybody that you see in a movie is really good. Like they have it. They have that something. So
Yeah.
like if she surprised people with this, with like a level of depth that she had, it probably
No.
shouldn't surprise people.
What's surprising, or what's sad, is there aren't enough good parts to
Yeah,
show
exactly.
off the talent
Right.
of these actors.
Right.
There's, you know, they catch it's like ships passing in the night. The talent and the right part and the time they're living in, it's, you know, so any actor, is you can't judge an actor until you really get to know them, because you've seen them in a few things or even a bunch of things. That means nothing to who they really are. Usually, that's been my experience. You know.
We don't normally do this, but you made a movie called Dazed and Confused, where you had all these people that were young and had barely done anything. And did you really like see all of that? Because practically everybody in that movie went on to like a movie career.
No, they were just they felt right for that part, you know. And I knew there was I just believe, you know, there's so much talent out there everywhere, not just in the coast, you know, everywhere. It's just those opportunities. So it's always great when you have an ensemble thing like that and you can offer a lot of people parts. I just knew there'd be a lot of talent out there. But the thing you can't predict is what they have in store for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you hope it's kind of a thing. You work with someone, you hope, well, this was great, we had a great time, you're great in the movie, you know, I hope the world offers you more parts that fit you, you know, and some do, some don't. You don't know how much they want it, you know. An acting career is a tough thing to decide to do and to persevere through, and you have to be kind of pathological in your need for it, I think, and your desire for it. I know a lot of people who maybe they're good at something, they just don't like want it that much. You know, you have to just, I just, when people say they want to act, I say, boy, you know, you better be in your bloodstream, because you're gonna have to suffer through a lot to get there. But yeah, you never know what they want to do. If on Dazed, seriously, I remember like Matthew, I thought he was great in that part. And if he would have told me, hey, this was a fun summer, but I'm going to go to law school, I'd be like, yeah, that's you. That's great. But he was like, you know, I'm thinking about going to LA. I'm like, really? Okay. I think you'll do well. You know, I wasn't going to encourage or discourage either direction, you know, just because it's up to them.
Right.
You can say, hey, you're really good in this movie. And you'll probably, maybe something could come out. I don't know if anyone will see the movie, but you know, maybe something good could come. You never know. So other people like, yeah, it's not what they want to do. So you just never know. But
So there's McConaughey and there's Wiley Wiggins.
yeah, I talked to Wiley for a long time last week. He's like, yeah,
He's doing great.
have a computer.
Wiley just got into NYU.
Yeah.
UCLA.
UCLA, that's right.
Right. Wiley in his early 40s is
It's taken off for
going
him.
on. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, another guy who didn't want it that bad. And
Wasn't driven.
well, you know, Wiley got offered all these parts that here we're talking about. That has to do with it. But again, like who you are, Wiley's like, oh, I'm getting offered all these stupid ass summer camp movies and shit like that. I'm like, Wiley, I offered you $100,000. You're fucking 16. Take it. If the movie sucks, it's not your fault. You're a teenager. Just do it, and you can pay your phone bill. You know. And he'd be like, I'm not gonna do that shit. So he just turned out. He's just had too much you know, whatever.
Yeah.
He wasn't professional enough to like move to LA, get an agent, go, okay, well I'm gonna work, I'm gonna do this, and no, you know. He's, you know, and that's admirable. You know. So
He just doesn't have that aching in himself that needs to be
yeah,
completed
you
by
got to be
that.
kind of a careerist. You
Yeah,
got to
yeah.
see yourself 10 years from now. You got to do all that stuff. Yeah.
Can you believe all this came out of that Cinderella question?
You asked, I don't know.
I saw a hand right over here, yeah.
Yeah, so Alan's next movie is Songwriter, right? It was with Wesley Warren and shot him
Before?
Well, it was both 1984, so maybe it was right before. But they both have her, and then that's an
Yeah.
Austin movie. It's kind of interesting with Willie and Chris Christopherson, and
Yeah.
it's a different movie. It felt a lot. I watched it recently. It got re-released.
Yeah, I mean, Rudolph, I mean, I guess there's two categories to him. He would come aboard projects like that, or a couple years after this, he did, what's that, Timothy and Deborah Winger, Heaven Help?
Made in Heaven.
Made in Heaven, Made in Heaven, kind of romantic. You know, like, so,
There
again.
were some scenes that were sort of had that sort of ha-ha, especially when there's just a couple of actors, you know,
Mhm.
with each other that felt similar, but a lot of it was different.
Yeah, I think he's best when he's in his own world that he's created scripts. I think he has the ability, obviously, to come aboard and do things like that, but I still think his best movies are things like this. But he's very good. Does anybody see his most recent film? and I feel bad I didn't, but it's with Keith Carradine and Sandra Locke called Ray and Helen.
It's from about 5 years ago.
Anybody see it? Not even that long, a couple years. Sandra Locke, who was in all those Clint Eastwood movies, she passed away recently, and that was her last film. But I have to see that now. I don't know why. Why didn't I? I know. It's a old, I mean, people in their 60s, I guess, this couple. Sounds interesting, but I think a film like that in the current marketplace probably just never had a chance. But
Yeah.
I kind of want to see what he wants to say about a couple, you know, him in his, I guess, 70s, wants to say about a couple that age. So that's our homework assignment over the summer. Everybody go watch Ray and Helen Ray. I'm sure we can stream it somewhere, but I'm gonna give it a chance.
It'd be an interesting
I don't
series.
know why I didn't, you know, it's like, hate to be one of those fans, oh, look, the early work, you know.
Right,
but,
right, exactly. It'd be interesting. It's always interesting to look at great filmmakers like late films, and I'm not presuming this is late for Rudolph, but he's getting up there, you know.
Yeah, you talk to any musician or any artist, you know, maybe they had a vibrant youth, but that later work, every one of them will say, I'm doing my best work. And, oh, you gotta be kidding, because this stuff's so good. It's like, well, give them a chance, you know? And somehow we all compartmentalize and put them like, oh, could they really be that, you know?
Yeah, and it sometimes
Be
takes
surprised.
20 years to go back and look at it and go, no, actually, no, that really, he wasn't lying. He was telling the truth. It
That
really
was a really good, those later, and you never know, those later films. We showed John Huston's The Dead. Or something. That's one of his best films. Did it when he was in his early 80s. An oxygen mask on.
Howard Hawks, Red Line 7000. Just
Yeah.
kidding.
Yeah.
It's not very good,
Yeah,
actually.
that generation didn't always do so well.
No.
Toward the end, the studio
Ford had a
system.
couple of good movies at the end, though.
Yeah.
We're getting way off
We're
track.
so far off.
Somebody
It
bring
really
us back
is.
to earth here.
Yeah,
right
bring
over
us-
here. Yeah.
Choose me. Let's go back to.
I saw a conversation, taped between Mark Isham and Alan Rudolph.
Composer.
Rudolph said that he always came up with the music first before he developed the concept for his movies. And I guess Isham worked with him on a lot of movies. I guess not this one, but.
Early on, I think, that's been a good creative duo for a long time.
And to me, like this one, I think he took that Teddy Pendergrass music and
Yeah.
Pendergrass, whatever his name is, and went with it.
Yeah, he sure did. Well, I would agree with that. Yeah, it feels that way. Like the music kind of is the mood, the way it intertwines. It's so integral to the film. So.
So everybody seen Remember My Name, the early Rudolph film with Alberta Hunter soundtrack? It's like just building that mood out of the music. And you could definitely see like that music being on while he's writing it, you know, on loop.
Yeah.
Probably on loop in those
Characters
days. You had to
mind.
put the record on again and again and again. But you could imagine that.
At this point, yeah.
Do you ever?
Eight-tracked.
Is there ever like Sweet Emotion or something? Why am I doing this? Like some song that you have in mind that you like are into in the writing of the film or anything like that?
Yeah, and it's some of it. Sometimes the music never even ends up in the final film. It's just what's kind of percolating through you at a certain moment. But yeah, certain films, especially a period film, you know, you go back. That's always great to rediscover or to discover sometimes for the first time. But yeah, it's all part of it.
Who else has a contribution? I see a hand all the way in the back.
Yeah, I was curious of your interpretation of Mickey's sort of sanity. Like, was this kind of a classic, like, the guy society deems him insane, but then he comes in and is a truth teller? Like, he seemed to fix, quote unquote, like the doctor, help her explore herself and help,
Yeah,
you know,
I was a little-
discover herself. And was he a pathological liar? Like, he had that dossier of like.
I was a little ambiguous in my intro because I didn't quite remember. I remember them seeing the Newsweek and Esquire covers, like, but that's like, okay, that's proof, right? He's not a liar. But it still seems weird. Did he make up all that? I mean, what do you think?
So I'm a mental health professional.
Okay.
Thank God. Come on
Thank
up.
you.
We need you.
We have a saying of you are what you treat. And I think everybody in Hollywood is in therapy, and this movie is a fantasy of I am more sane than my mental health provider.
Then all these.
So I kind of saw it that way. I was
I can think of one con artist who should go in. Well, yeah, they don't put you in, but so he is all those things. He's this. Okay, are we agreeing? Is everyone in agreement?
That he actually was a spy, but he's also maybe a pathological liar.
But if he has that proof and carrying it around with him, no less, how does that not get him out of it when he's getting busted for such things?
This is deep cover.
Deep, deep cover with some graphic skills too to make all this.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
You couldn't just Photoshop that stuff in those days. It was a
Yeah,
whole
that's what I
operation.
mean.
Yeah.
It's not even.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we're just gonna not quite know what's going on there. Right over here. Yeah.
It's interesting your point at the end about his gun was loaded. It seemed like that was the only lie that he told throughout the whole thing. Like all this stuff you made up, you're like, oh, he's lying, and then you see it was true when she discovers the dossier. Then at the end, you know, when he says his gun wasn't loaded, and we believe it was.
Well, was it?
Well, because it was the same gun that the guy had shot it with.
Yeah. But when he checked the magazine, no shell came out.
Right. But that was the other guy's. That was Zach's gun, right?
Yeah.
So,
He could have popped it. He could have popped the magazine.
is it the same day? Could he have gotten the gun and? No, it's the same.
There's ambivalence in the film. It's a strategy. It's a narrative
I
strategy.
think by that time he's probably either emptied the clip or
I see a hand right over here.
Well, the whole film, he keeps saying that he tells the truth, right? And we find out that apparently everything he said is true. But he sat in the car with Leslie Ann Warren, told her I'm a pathological liar. So which one of those?
one of those conundrum. What are those called? Well, but didn't he say something right after that? I'm a pathological liar. What came right after that? Like that's why they locked him up. Or something. I think he's been called that a lot. So he
But it seems like that was the one. The other you were saying about the one. That's the only other place I saw that it looked like he contradicted himself.
This movie drives people crazy, I'm guessing, who need to have things sort of buttoned up, you know, and I think that that's probably intentional, considering how much care he puts into it.
Plotty, frustrating. Like some movies that just, oh, well, wait, the character wouldn't, you know, that's, you know, just lame sometimes, just bad filmmaking, bad logic. This, it seems so in character that it's intriguing, you know, that it's the best kind of that version of that, I think.
And a big thing that's going on in this movie is people's stories, like people's stories that they're telling about themselves, people's stories that they're believing about themselves.
Yeah, which everyone seems to be in some hiding something or, so.
And Leslie Ann Warren, by the time they're on the bus, she's bought into this story that she begins to have doubts about it. She begins to feel ambivalent about the story that she's bought into at the end there too.
Right.
And that's
she
sort
gets
of
a little
like
smile. It's like, well, maybe I'll just, how long can I go? We all operate with stories in our heads, real or not.
I think the little thing where she gives those looks is sort of like the Lubitsch touch in this movie. It's sort of like, if it is sort of like a bedroom farce, a door slamming farce, like in a way, like that is the Lubitsch touch that he's bringing to it. Is that just that little subtle, or maybe not so subtle, little thing where she looks at the camera or looks around several times?
Several times.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the number of times makes it that. Each one makes it deeper and more interesting. They could keep going. No, they hit it about right. One or two more, it would have been like that.
I have a theory because we saw so many smudged first names in the dossier that maybe all the photos are actually of his father, and he is a pathological liar. I just thought that was a weird detail that there were so many smudged first names and that, I don't know, it was very mysterious and weird. That's not a real theory, it's just.
They're his father?
John Carradine? Wait.
If anyone could pull it off.
Yeah, right, exactly.
John Carradine.
I see a hand right over here.
Since this conversation has started, I'm thinking maybe that was just his diagnosis, that they kept calling him a pathological liar, so it's like a joke to him now.
That's pretty good, yeah.
Yeah. The way he says it is not totally in character,
It
yeah.
sounded sarcastic. to
Right,
me.
he put a
Very
little thing on
sarcastic
it.
when he said
He's
it.
quoting someone.
But also, we saw, I thought we were gonna get like a psycho roommate story. Didn't we see the parents like have a romantic dinner by herself, or is that the French man coming over? We didn't see it. Who was on the phone being like, "Are you taking your meds?" And she was like, "I gotta go." I don't know. Is that just like
Early
you
on.
said that like maybe we're all a little crazy, or is that supposed to be her story with the Frenchman somehow? I feel like I missed. What do you think?
That was her therapist.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she's got her
Yeah.
own therapist, she calls.
But she gets drunk and gets dressed up and puts the makeup on.
It's alone, or if you think somebody was coming over.
Interesting.
I thought she was kind of trying out the identity sort of a little bit, you know?
She felt alone, right?
Yeah.
And they never put together that they're the voices.
Does
Anybody
anybody
remember that whether that ever got resolved or not? I just thought they're roommates. They don't recognize each other's voices because they're under different names, or
When,
you know.
when she's talking, she says, "I said it tonight on the radio," and she catches
She
herself.
immediately corrects
But it doesn't really seem like it registers.
and it
as
doesn't
well.
seem to register.
Yeah.
She gets away with
She's
it.
leaving.
And how great is that one little moment where she's in the room, they're on the phone, but just for a second, and then we pan back and she's not. You know, it's like, wow, what an interesting little choice. She's in the room.
What's Alan Rudolph's number? I just want to go ahead and give him a call.
Yeah, we should have him on Skype. You know, we should be.
We really should, actually.
He could be answering all these. What are we doing up here? We should have. Even Keith Carradine would be able to help us. We should
Well,
just
the
have
problem is he's a pathological liar.
Yeah, that's what I hear.
They won't give you a straight answer even if you ask. So
We should
we're
get
as close as anything.
We should get Keith Carradine here to
Yeah.
Austin, actually,
Yeah.
to do some of his movies because he's amazing.
Can we have a Keith Fest and just pick
Yeah.
5 or 10 or Keith Carradine movies?
Let's absolutely, actually, totally do that.
Maybe he'll play some music too. He's a great,
Yeah.
singer, guitar player. What an amazing guy.
Yeah, it really is. And great family stories too.
Yeah.
I wonder if we have like one last sort of contribution. We don't want to say goodbye. It's been such a great series. Who has like one amazing contribution?
Lars has a way of just
the audience.
This is what it feels like.
Right over here.
Paul is ours.
The amazing contribution.
I want to go back to when you're talking about stuff that was like on the nose, like the posters and stuff. I really appreciated and was tickled by when you saw the title card. It was just sung along with it, like the choose.
Yeah,
right?
it breaks in right then at the.
Yeah, that was a wonderful and kind of made me chuckle a little bit. Also, I want to say somehow like a really sexy movie has been made without any sex in it. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, that opening sequence, you know you're in for a treat. I'd completely forgotten it. You know, that's almost like a music video in a strange way. It's choreographed. It looks like you're on a stage too. I wasn't so sure he didn't get a free night on the backlot at some studio. You know, the way it's lit, it's so perfect. But you see it during the day, you go, oh yeah, that's a LA, neighborhood downtown or whatever. But yeah, that's so beautifully choreographed and kind of, I don't know, very cool. Sets a great tone, So.
It draws you in. It seduces you.
Yeah,
as
it
were.
seduces you in because it's not realistic. I mean, it's kind of the way it's lit. And yeah, it's like romantic, but not that. The atmosphere of it is something else. So a lot of contradictions kind of swirling around and different impulses, but it fits. Everything kind of perfectly fits. It feels like.
The whole technique of the background singers coming in and just singing, like sort of seemingly randomly throughout, or at moments of great emotional pitch.
Yeah.
It had people laughing at times in a way that I'm wondering is that actually a laugh moment, or is that like actually a peak of emotion sort of?
I take it back. It's not a music video as much as it's like a musical.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm wrong on that. It's more of a musical number from a different era.
Like the Bandwagon or something.
Yeah. It's kind of a long. Yeah, so I think that's probably the impulse there. But wow, so okay.
We don't have anything next week to talk about. That's my normal out to get out of a discussion.
A lot of docs to watch this weekend, and everything we're showing here. It's going to be a great summer.
It's an amazing theater. It's an incredibly well-programmed theater.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it's just I don't know how that happens.
So people are gonna after this. We're gonna be back in, I don't know, 6 months or a year or whatever, and do another one of these. But
Always schedule dependent, but we'll see.
is there anything that you wanted to show in this series that people should maybe go out and watch on a small screen or something?
Oh man, one time didn't I give a homework? I gave a couple pages, like there's
Yeah.
100 films from the 80s. to
We
watch,
put it
so-
on our Letterboxd page.
Yeah, just go to that and keep checking those off.
Yeah.
So there's more. It always comes up, but yeah, we'll keep programming this. There's a lot more to show. 80s, pretty fascinating decade.
Seemingly continually replenishing decade as we discover more and more
deeper,
things.
deeper. Yeah, a lot of great work.
Well, Rick, I want to thank you so much
Thank you,
on behalf
Lars.
of
What a beautiful
everybody.
print Lars found. That's a print. 35mm print. Not a scratch on it.
You just book it from the studio, or it wasn't that hard.
Yeah, but it's a good one. So thank you guys for being here. See you at the movies. So.
Thank you so much, Rick.
All right.
I really appreciate it. Thanks everybody who
Night.
came.